Hey everyone, can you hear me?
Hey guys, behave. We're live.
Hello, hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Yo,
Yeah, that was weird.
yeah,
I
we
don't
can
know.
hear you.
Okay, so let's just get back to where we were. I think you were talking about something, Flame, right?
Team games.
Team games, but after that, let's like restart the whole thing. Like let's just go,
Yeah.
like more
Yeah,
natural conversation.
Yeah, we were talking and we thought it's just better to start from the top to bottom in what we were discussing previously. And the first topic of discussion would be how do we all feel about food and base? Because I've heard lots of different takes on this, but majority of people want to reduce it for some reason. How come?
So I'll go first, I guess. I feel like if you are forced to go outside of your base to be competitive with the other player, whether that is either in amount of food or gather rate of food, I feel like that will produce more interesting games because you are putting yourself at risk for like raid, attacks, etc. Whereas if you are in base, that is often not something the other party can do except also stay in their base. Because right now, if one person is staying in their base and goes from starting hunt to chickens, with husbandry, it's basically the same gathering rate, then the other person doesn't really get a large advantage from going outside of their base and hunting, even though they theoretically be exposing themselves to raids, whereas the other person is not. And that doesn't feel right to me. I think games would be a little bit more dynamic if we would either lower the amount of food in base, which I'm not immediately a fan of, but if we would lower the gather rate significantly on chickens and berries compared to hunt, I think that would I think that would be great because then sure someone can still be in their base, have all the food they want, but I'm gathering faster, right? So I'm getting ahead in that way. I
It's
just some sort of advantage from going outside of your base and opening yourself up to raids, which currently is either not there or it's like barely there, that it doesn't justify doing it.
You know what the problem is with the whole situation right now? It's like all these bullshit strategies, like all the abusive strategies, like they could be so easily prevented if there was a way, to counter all these faster rogues. Like every game is a 1TC semi-fast rogue or a 2TC semi-fast rogue, and there's no way to counter it because there's so much just food in your base. Like the berries and chicken get are almost as fast as the hunt, and just walking outside to a hunt location when the villagers are that low on HP, like they're so weak compared to original game. Like there was a good reason the villagers were tanky in original game, so they could go outside and hunt, and like you actually had to fight and like stop someone from hunting. And if you did that, then it would be really really hard to actually go heroic with so little food in your base. Like it was actually like a skill to go fast heroic as Egypt on the Ghost Lake. Like you had to like calculate that shit and like actually eat your goats, eat your berries. Like it was a really like hard thing to do. But nowadays it's like anyone can just go fast rogue. That's why Gaia is so abusive with the Contarius. That's why
Mm-hmm.
the camels were running around. That's why we had to nerf the mythic time. It took to go to mythic. We had to increase the food cost, the gold cost. Like so many issues stem from that. There's just too much food and it's not contestable. To the point where it's just like it's like a they keep band-aid fixing the game. Like they put in like bandages on the issues instead of like fixing the core issue.
No, you're right. When it comes to calculating like your fast heroic with how many resources you have in Legacy, sometimes you end up in a situation. Let's say as Egyptians, you get to heroic with no more food left, so you have to use your god powers, your units to make damage because you don't have any food left, and you gotta get value out of it. But whereas in Retold, you just get to heroic just because you can get to heroic, not because it's like your main strategy. When it comes to putting more incentive on getting resources and securing resources outside of the base, I think that puts more emphasis on human units, on heroes, on myth units, and less on god powers. Because I think that would make you spend more time in each age as opposed to jumping ages with all of the resources inside of your base.
Yeah, and also like every game is like a semi-fast rogue, right? Like we don't see enough like true classical fights, right? Like where it just one player against the other player just meeting in the middle and you're just like fighting nonstop. Like there's very interesting games where you build forward to protect your hunt, and it creates like these crazy like very enjoyable games. You remember like Shelty against Mista on like Savannah, where they both have like all their longhouses in the middle, and like it just comes down, who wins that fight. And, if they're equal, the game extends to the late game, and it's like very enjoyable to watch. But we're just missing that completely now.
So the problems I see with, let's say, lowering base hunt is it's a direct hit against casual players and new players, and not only that, it now introduces favored matchups even more. You cannot fight a certain civ against a certain civ if you have to move out of your base at 4 or 5 minutes into the game. So keeping the base hunt as it is for someone to still be able to play the game, whereas while maybe increasing the reward for hunting outside your base, while you should probably like increase the reward for going outside your base to hunt rather than sit inside. Do you know what I mean by that? Let's say if one player is playing Set and the other one is playing Gaia. The Gaia cannot leave their base early on for their second hunt pack because the Set will be too dominant in the early stages with the animals and such, which means Gaia can now fall back on berries and chicken while Set can take the tempo and eat the outside hunt.
But that's how it worked also in Legacy.
Yeah, is that a
Yes,
problem that it is like that?
Like,
it's
I'm not
it's
sure
yeah,
not.
that's
it's
a
like
problem.
If we are looking at it from a casual's perspective, they will probably not want to play the game. We have to always keep them in mind when we discuss stuff like this. I imagine if a casual player can't even eat hunt outside their base because they have a set player with 10 animals ready to kill them, instead of them just being able to eat their chickens and berries, it will just cause them to quit eventually.
Yeah, but why would it cause them to quit? Is it because they perceive it as unpleasant to play in that way?
They
Or is it
cannot
because,
get food.
I mean,
They ran out
they
of
can
food
trade
after aging to classic, so now they only have one patch of chickens left, and then they have to move on to hunt. And
or
once they move
herbivores?
on to hunt, they will probably die to the set player,
I
is what
mean,
I'm trying to
so
tell.
they can get they can get the starting hunt. Okay, fine. Then they can go, let's say we reduce it. And just for the record, I'm in favor of lowering the gather rate, not the amount of food, but let's pretend that we are removing the amount of food. So let's say we just delete chickens or berries, like it's quite drastic, but let's say we do that. They go from hunt, they go to either berries or chickens, depending on which one we delete. And then after they can go to their hurdles, and then after they can go to farms. But I mean, by that time, their gold is running out anyway, so they have to leave base anyway, right? And I mean, right now, whether people cannot reach second gold, second hunt, I mean, you can keep going like this. It kind of becomes like a second order dilemma, right? It's just you're just shifting the issue further.
Yes, I mean, it becomes even more problematic at that point. If now you have to try to get food and gold by the time your second gold mine runs out, right? The way to address this, in my opinion, would be to increase the hunt gather rate and keep the chickens and berries as they are. This way, there's an incentive for aggressive players to take control of the map and get rewarded for it through having, hunt, which gives them tempo, map control, and more. And the player who chooses to play a defensive civ who cannot compete against an aggressive civ in the early game will still have berries and chickens to keep them in the game until they can do something.
I think that's fine. Just one nerf instead of a double nerf, I guess.
Yeah,
just hunting needs to be like better, and
one
I
buff to
think
hunt.
I think they also need to move the hunting gear upgrade to classic because the villagers die way too easily right now. Like if if we want people to hunt outside on the map, they need to be a little bit tankier as well because they die way too easy right now.
That can be problematic in general, maybe. Because of raids, it makes horses a little less effective. But I guess if they go outside of the map, they would be more prone to it. So, yeah, it can work. It can work.
Yeah, I think like in terms of RTS games that I played, the ones that I found the most enjoyable are the games that actually promote risk and reward, right? Right now, like you guys have said, there's no risk, but there's all the reward within the confines of your base. which limits the amount of strategical options that a player has. And by limiting the amount of strategical options and expressions of one's, skill, then you're going to create a game which might be easier to play but not as enjoyable. And then on top of that, the other thing I was going to say was um, the bear, like in terms of the gather rates for berries and chickens, I think chickens just need to come down a little bit. I think berries is in a good spot, but I think if chickens came down, I think chickens with the herdable upgrade is almost the same as hunt, is it not? I think
It
that,
is almost exactly the same. It's like 0.01 difference, so like effectively the same.
yeah. So like, and then the thing you were saying, Nora, that casuals might not be happy about that change. The thing I tried to point out in my videos as well is that casuals are going to be playing against people of the same skill level as them, right? You're not going to see people that are going to be aggroing their second hunting pack as often as you do at our level. I think most of the players at that stage will not know how to abuse the civ's inherent abilities to actually create problematic situations for casual players. So I don't think it's going to
But
be as big of an issue as we might think it would be.
You know, the thing also
you
is
did
like, go ahead.
you did say players at our level, and I can like if we were to take an example out of our level where we know what to do in certain matchups, wouldn't you say it becomes even worse for us when we're playing a certain matchup and we cannot move out to the second hunt because of their civ?
I agree. I think you're right. But I think we're looking at two different things right now, right? We're looking at balance on one side of the spectrum, and then the other thing is we're looking at the enjoyability of the game. And I think the enjoyability of the game always comes first. So once we realize that it's an issue that, some civilizations can't play in this type of meta, then the balance devs need to step in and say, okay, this civ needs such and such to be able to compete with this new type of gameplay that we've created.
Okay, yeah, I understand.
Also, the thing
I
is, right,
agree.
like you guys might not believe it, but like noobs actually like playing 1TC, like all ins. Like they like making the big army, just sending it to the enemy's base. They like all in, and they like to play classic. And playing, if you play classic right now, that's not really a thing. You're just gonna lose every game. Like you need to semi-fast heroic almost every game with like a little bit of army, you know. And if we bring back, the classical fighting, like I think they'll have a much more enjoyable time. And also, right now, noobs lose, and they don't even know why they lose. Like they lose to some bullshit heroic god power most of the time, because there's no way to counter someone that just go heroic for free, right? Like no way to counter it, no way to punish it. So we fixed that. I think even if they lose to a rush and they get pushed off their hunt, it will feel a lot more fair than right now where they just lose to like some bullshit god power like Fade Beast or whatever is meta right now.
I mean, this goes back to the balance, right? Like what I'm saying is, one thing will lead to a lot of things needing change. For example, removing the berries would need a lot of changes for each civ to be able to step out. Do you know
Not
what I
not
mean?
not as many as you would think. I think this is a great segue to seasons, right?
Hmm.
These changes are hugely meta shifting changes. I don't want to like take a 3-4 month vacation and come back and the meta is still the same 2TC semi fast heroic. Now, if you introduce a new season and you make such a simple but a huge change like getting more bonus on the hunt and securing resources outside the map, sure, you will have weaker civs that are gonna fall out of the meta, which happens in every game that has a new season. Some gods or some heroes are gonna be stronger than others, and you can try to balance around that in the new season. And if that game design does not work, you make some changes in the next season.
Yeah, I see your point and I fully agree with it. This would require a lot of like staying in tune with the game from the side of developers and stuff to understand what's going on.
It's just like at Rebel, the Mista was going to TC semi-fast heroic, making like 3 heroes or 3 units, and like going around making sure no one can get the easy resources. Then goes heroic, and he's still doing that right now. Like people are still doing that same thing that they were doing at release, and I think it has to stop at one point. People have to play classic again. Like they have to fight. Like the classic needs to
am
be longer.
I am all for aggressively shifting things up and like making it a completely like new meta. I am all for that. It's just what if a sudden change like this happens? My concerns are if a sudden change like this happens and it completely screws the dynamic of the game up, will it be addressed quickly enough to, you know, do something about it? Like, can you fix this if this happens? Is
There
my
has
concern.
there has to be a change. We are already at rock bottom, in my opinion. We can only go up with these changes.
Also, like there's still one more Civ, so I feel like right now is the time to do this because for sure at least we'll get one more patch with the new Civ. I mean, obviously we're gonna get more, right? But now right now is the time because after the second Civ is out and we get a few patches, after that no one knows if we're gonna ever get a patch again. So if we want to fix it, I think it has to be right now.
Well, I think it should be after the tournament, but yeah, it should be relatively soon.
Yeah.
I mean, we are gonna need a balanced patch for China before the tournament, right? If we're being honest.
Yeah.
With like how Nuba is right now, and maybe we can get into that later. But I like because at this point you have a tournament on the line. There's money on the line. There's like, I mean, I don't want to say career, but kind of like career if you're like into that still. I'm a bit too old for that personally, but people really want to win, so people are gonna gravitate towards the dominant strategy and like the best way for them to win. And with China being so oppressive, and with China, I'm mostly talking about Nuba, although of course something can also be said for the other ones. I think we do need a balance patch, and unfortunately, with how it has been going and how relatively close the tournament is, I do think that balance patch is going to be relatively close to the tournament, which is not ideal, but it still isn't. Which tournament was it? Red Bull, where they made like the beta branch with like the changes, like Poseidon's lure being able to research like granary upgrades and stuff, and then that was just like a patch for the specific tournament. Those changes weren't implemented until way later, which I think was really wild. But yeah, I just think there should be a balanced patch for China because at the moment it's, I would say, over centralizing. It's just gonna like revolve around China, and like, do people really want to see China getting banned like just constantly? Are we, it's I don't know. It just doesn't feel right to me if there's no patch.
I mean, we have to. A lot of people have been complaining about the state of China, including me to an extent. But I think the way they release China is pretty much how I expected. I mean, any marketing company would do it the same way. They want it to be overpowered. What I am more so concerned about is how they haven't hotfixed some of the things or fixed or throw a patch earlier to address some of the things that are not that you're not able to play against.
Yeah, the wall chip thing into towers instantly. Like
Yeah,
where Nua will cast like creation for like the clay villages, which by the way have 100 hit points, just for everyone's information. They will cast it behind your town center. There is no way you can prevent that with like the sky lantern and everything. They build a wall piece, it goes up in like 1 second. They click a button, immediately it's a tower, and then you still have the you still have like the clay wall to deal with and everything. And it's like, okay, aside from whether it's strong or not, which by the way, I do think it's strong. At first, I was kind of on the fence. I was like, all right, is this strong or is it just kind of lame to play against? I do think it's actually really strong. But even if it isn't strong, like, is that fun to play against? Like, because to me, that was very unfun. Like the times I played against it, even the times I won, I was like, wow, that was not a good experience.
It's just very toxic game design. And I think it's kind of egregious that they, even thought of this, wall chip thing. Honestly, like it should never be in the game in the first place. And yeah,
Wait, so I'm confused. Is it like a bug or it's an actual
it's
feature?
a feature. It's a
it's
feature.
a feature. Yeah.
Yeah, working as intended, unfortunately.
Good thing Boyd is not here.
But before we talk about China, right? Because I feel like we're gonna go deep now with China. Can we talk about the water situation real quick before that?
Yeah, the water. Like, so I'm kind of weird because Anatolia is my favorite map, and as you know, like,
Me too, me too.
yeah, I know. So like, I will like queue for a game, which I rarely do to begin with. But then if I do and I get like Anatolia, I'm like, I can play Anatolia, and then like the other person disconnects, and I'm just like, it's I don't know, it's really frustrating to me. But yeah, people generally seem to dislike water maps. I'm curious as to why you guys think that is, because I have some ideas, but I wanna hear you guys' opinion first.
I'm curious
For
as well.
uh, for the casual, I would say it's the complicated nature of water maps and the unfun nature of it. You don't really feel you like even if you win water, you don't really feel that rewarded for it. Uh, my personal opinion on this would be easiest way to actually fix this where people are forced to play water and learn it is simply hide the map once you queue up with, or once you match with someone instead of seeing what map it is. This way some like gods you won't know which map it is and they will have to play on bad maps, etc. And it just overall would make water played more because people don't know, and if they resign they lose points.
Mediterranean.
Yeah, that also another thing I don't quite understand is why Medit was removed. It was one of the best. I like Anatolia more, but Mediterranean should never have been removed. It should have been fixed instead with whatever was the issue with it that people were
Honestly, there was
complaining.
not even an issue. It was just literally just the serpents like being a
True, true.
enormous balance issue, and I think that's literally the only reason, and the Silas, of course. Um, but that brings me to the point, right? Like fishing right now is just not worth it in classic, at least. Like I think the fishing ship upgrade should be moved to classic, or they need to buff the gather rate. It doesn't, have to be as crazy as the original, where if you lose water, you lose the game, right? Like it can be in between how it is right now and how it was on the original. Because right
Yeah,
now, it like if you make too many ships, to win the entirety of water, you can barely break even because the ships cost so much resources. Like it literally just a waste of resources to make ships, to the point where every game someone just will just send their myth unit out on the water, win one side of water, and like if you contest that water myth unit too much, you actually lose resources. So people just give it up. Like water right now, it's just nothing. Like it might as well not be in the game. Like it's just nothing. Like playing it is literally just a water myth unit. That's all. That's all what it is.
yep.
And we just don't have pure water fights anymore. Like no one spams ships anymore. I just want to talk real quick about our experience at release. When my friends and I still thought that water was a thing. We were playing 3 versus 3 Highland. We're all making ships, having fun. Like we had like a big water fight in the middle. Like we had a ton of ships, and then slowly we realized that the water myth units and just going fast heroic was way better. It like destroys everything. And after that, we realized, oh shit, just take a TC. That's even better, and just don't go fish or like barely fish. And I feel like after that moment, like water was just completely ruined. Like no one really cares about water anymore. It's just completely useless. And I think that's really bad for the game, honestly.
Yes, I agree. Right now, it seems like water is mostly whoever gets to heroic first, rushes per scene, and gets their myth unit out, will probably be in the winning position of the game. And to address this, I would say remove free heroic myth unit from water, like Lorenzo said, and increase the fishing ship gather rate in classic. But then there's another discussion on top of. Do you guys like the rock paper scissors type of thing in classic, or would you guys have liked to see it in heroic instead? Like,
Honestly, like there's not even a way to know because we've never really fought water except for at least like the first week. Like no one has truly tested like a pure water fight. Like we don't know if it's really fun or not because it's not really possible to try. It's like
yeah,
it's
it's not
pointless.
never worth it. Yeah, never worth. I get it. So
Yeah,
good.
because
Go
the
on.
main problem is why should I even fight for my classical fish? I'll just go heroic for per se. I think that's the main problem. If we put more emphasis on classical fishing, you would see a lot more boats.
Oh, for real, for sure.
So the issue that I've had with water is that it feels very formulaic, so you very much know what to do. Because let's pretend that you're both advancing to classical, any map, Anatolia, whatever. Just pick any like water map, and you decide to fight water. First of all, which ship are you making? Are you making a melee ship, so like a hammer ship? Are you making like an arrow ship, or are you making like a siege ship? So it's funny, I actually had discussions with this about my friends, who, spoiler alert, they were wrong, because they are 1200s. But so you don't make an arrow ship, right? Because an arrow ship doesn't have any pressure on docks, even though it's pretty decent against fishing ships. You don't make a melee ship because a melee ship, it's actually fairly weak to docks because it has low pierce armor. So what do? You make a siege ship because it's good against fishing ships. It is good against docks as well. They actually outrange docks aside from Hades docks. And on top of that, the counter to that is a hammer ship. But again, remember, the hammer ship is weak to dock fire because they have lower piece armor, right? Because of the triangle of like counter units on water. So the hammer ship cannot actually attack the siege boat that is in like underneath your own docks or closer to it. So while I was doing this, I actually encountered the same situation as both Flame and Pegasus, I think, where I was like, oh, I'm so smart, I know which unit to make and now the ratio, and this was actually quite fun. And then one of the people I play customs with, was actually pretty decent, he started going heroic, and like the free Kraken just completely like destroys everything. And I'm like, wow, I can't actually do anything against this. Because first of all, heroic fleet is only arrow ships. I still don't know why to this day. It affected every ship in Legacy, I think. Again, you don't really want to make arrow ships. And now I just cannot do anything. And now on top of that, he gets Percy, which by the way is insane compared to Legacy, like the buff that you get from it. So just the power spike that you get. So I guess I'm kind of repeating this point, but just with a little bit more context on how it can be fun with like the counter triangle. You just get such a huge power spike from going heroic that, I mean, why would you do anything else at this point? Like it's just, yeah.
Pointless.
Also, one last point, right, for me. Like the castles do way too much damage to ships. Like if you put a castle down next to the Anatolia River or on the Highland, whatever map you want to play, it just shoots down everything to the point where it's like pointless making ships against it. Like it completely destroys water. Like it's not fun. It's like I don't know why it does so much damage against ships. Just wanted to get that out there as well.
I mean, it's a castle. What do you want it
Yeah,
to do?
it's just too easy to do.
I think that's where I can bring up my next point while we're on this topic. I think Naval Oxybel should be reintroduced to the game because this upgrade allowed for a lot of different strategic approaches in both water maps and land maps, such as watering hole, marsh, savanna, anything where like a town center could end up in range. This upgrade used to be a game changer, and it added a lot of flavor to each and every match. And you could see comeback mechanics, you could see different stuff, like very cool strats. And this would also solve your issue, Flame, where castles or whatever is just dominant next to a water.
Yeah, it just adds another dimension, to a lot of maps. It's just that you can shoot down markets or trade. You can shoot down TCs on Marsh, on Watering Hole, and it just makes like all the water units like it includes them into the game. Whereas of right now, it's kind of useless.
Yeah.
Listen, this is the same philosophy as our first point, lowering the gather rates of berries and chickens to secure resources outside of the map. This is the same philosophy we are applying to fishing ships and their gather rate in classical, which would incentivize more boats. Now, I think this is a very satisfying position to be in, since Lorenzo dismissed his 1200 friend as wrong, and I can do the same thing now, and because I'm top 5 on the ladder, and Lorenzo's like 16,700. Of course he's wrong. You don't open up with siege. I mean, okay, so let's say we make this change actually with the fishing ships being more stronger in classical. This would make the discussion actually relevant now. If we keep the boat system as it is, what ship do you open with? I think when I see my opponent making a siege ship first, I'm very satisfied. You can just make 2 hammer ships, hammer it down, even with a little bit of micro, and get out of there immediately. As it is right now, the best boat to open with is nothing. So that's the problem, is just go heroic.
Yeah, that's definitely the issue. So to kind of wrap up this water topic, because I think we've all said what we wanted to say. If you would have to make a change, I know that Nilra already said remove the free water myth unit. Personally, I completely agree with that. But on top of that, I think I would delete Percy and split up maybe Salt Amphora. So wait, I phrased that wrong, I think. So what I would say is I would boost the base gathering of fishing ships. And then I would split up Salt Amphora. I would literally divide it by 2. And now Persine is half of Salt Amphora, basically. Because Persine is plus 75%. And for comparison, most econ upgrades are 10%, maybe 15%. So it's quite insane. I think if you would boost the base gather rate and then nerf Persine and Salt Amphora a little bit, I think that would be healthier for water, where you don't get in this position where it's like, oh, I need to go fast heroic, and if I'm not gathering for a bit with my fishing ships, I mean, who cares? Because it's like 0.5 per second, you know? And yeah.
I think so. Just to wrap it up, so I think we all agree, like boosting the base gathering rate of fishing ships, reducing the salt amphora and Persine, and then remove the free myth unit, right? Just to
Yeah.
wrap it up.
Yes,
and
for me.
And add naval oxybells.
what is that again?
Do you remember in Legacy where you could like watering hole where you could
Siege
build a
upgrade.
dock?
Oh
you
yeah,
could
yeah.
just-
Yeah.
You can't take down TCs and stuff.
I think they removed that on purpose. They didn't want that. Anyways, let's move on to another topic. Somebody asked, well, Matrius asked. He said, "Why do they release the game in such a bad state? It's completely broken. Like looking at Phoebes, for example, or even like Great Flood, or any of these like Chinese mythic age god powers. You can tell at first glance that they're completely broken. Do you think that they implement these as a marketing stunt, or do you think that why do you think that it gets released in this condition?"
I mean, obviously, like it's like literally every company does this with everything to incentivize people to buy the DLC. And I mean, if you would ask me like ethically or ideologically, I'm not actually opposed to that. It's fine. They need to make money. They can
Yeah.
like release it a little bit overtuned, but please be quick with the hot fixes. What are we doing here? Like it's not fun that I'm playing like a game and I just know I'm on a timer because Fire Beast is gonna hit and it's completely uncounterable. And it's just it feels so bad. So it's fine to release things a little bit too strong. But then please just also be like quick to hotfix and really keep like your finger on the pulse, so to speak, of like what is like a pain point, you know? And that's currently not being done, unfortunately.
I think a big issue with a lot of god powers in Retold is that they do damage to villagers, and I think that's just very toxic. Because what's the best use for meteor? You bait your enemy's army to a gold mine they have, and then you meteor both the army and the villagers. And the reason why Locust was always so toxic in the original game because it targets villagers, right? And now we have another god power, Fey Beast, that can also target villagers. And there's just so many god powers that can mess with the villagers, like the clay god power. You can stop a second TC from going up, right? And I think people in general just hate when their eco is being messed with, and I think it's just very anti-fun, especially because the villagers die so easily right now. Because they used to be way tankier in the original, right? So I think that's a really big issue in the game in general.
Can I just ask, is this a high level issue or a low level issue, you think?
It's an
All
issue
across the
for all
board.
gameplays. I think no one enjoys getting their villagers killed for like just with one click. Like you can place a god power anywhere and villagers get deleted. That's not fun at all, I think.
I'm not sure, because for me, I think from what I watched, Fey Beasts is not an issue in high level. I think it's not
Oh.
very difficult to counterplay with like one tower on your gold miner, and it should be fine.
The problem with it is that if they simply have a tower on the gold mine, you can just throw it around, and some people like the problem with it you can kill them even before they even get into the tower. That's how fast they die. And plus, even if they get into the tower, they're now super damaged and they can run around to the other side and kill other things. Like, I've had Fabies kill 30, 40 villagers. I've had Fabies kill 50 units that were fully upgraded, by the way.
No, I
Like,
understand. You're completely right in that. I think a 1 or 2 second cast time is necessary for it, like Ancestors, but going too much to nerf it, I think, is not great.
I think it should be like more of a, they should have more of a purpose. Like, you don't see Locust doing insane damage to both villagers and units. You see it doing to one or the other, right? This one does both of it, and it's super fast, 6.5 speed, and you cannot turn around and kill them unless you're ready to trade your army for it, because they're also too tanky. They're not something you can one-shot, unless you have like an AoE myth unit or AoE hero there.
It can become very useless very quick, this god power, if you nerf it too much. I think the Fabi, probably everybody here hates me for saying this. They are quite weak stat wise. I know they do a shit ton of damage with the poison. You can definitely nerf the poison, and you can definitely nerf the cast time of it, in my opinion.
I think the best way to go with it is to choose one lane. Either make it kill villagers the way it does, but not army, or make it kill the army and not the villagers, not both. Choosing a lane for it is the better approach.
I think the problem is they just power creep Locust, because Locust you cannot control, but well, kind of a little bit. But Fabius you can 100% control. Yes, they die fast, but like being able to control it and it's good against villagers. I think that's the big issue. I don't think that should be a thing.
I think this is a great suggestion in the chat from Honeynuts. More tanky and less DPS. I like that.
I would actually say the opposite. Less tanky and same DPS. Like, you shouldn't need an AoE myth unit or a hero to kill them. Your army should simply be able to kill them within a hit or two. But right now they take several hits to kill, which means that while you're standing there trying to kill them, they're already killed. They have already killed you.
With the cast time nerf, let's say that they take 2 seconds to spawn, this will help you be able, let's say this is problematic in fights, because we're talking about fights. If they have this cast time, this will help you react by pulling your village, I mean, by pulling your heroes to your backline. Because you will see, their poison coming up and you have 2 seconds to react. In the same way that you deal with Ancestor Eclipse, how you
Yeah.
used to and how you do it now. You pull
This
your heroes to the backline.
this
Which
could
would then also
possibly help, but you would still need to nerf the movement speed.
Yeah, so I'm wondering, would you then also have would you have them be damageable during the 2 second cast time, or do they like emerge and they are untargetable? Because I think if they would be damageable for 2 seconds before they would become active, that would prevent what I think is the main issue at the moment, whereas they cast it on top of your army and that's it. It doesn't matter if you have flaming weapons, if you have like bronze, like it doesn't matter, like the fight is lost. And by the way, just as a quick side note, it costs about as much to recast as Forest Fire, which I think is hilarious. But yeah, so
Yeah,
that would be my question. How would you do that? Would you have them be like damageable during the 2 seconds they're kind of emerging?
I think that would be a good change. I think anything where you have counterplay, it's a good idea.
Yeah, I think so too. I think maybe a speed nerf 6.5 is a bit extreme. They also last for a while, by the way. You can like split them up and like send one to like wood, one to gold. You don't even have to cast it on top of the army. But casting it on top of the army to me is the main issue that I have encountered with it. As I guess as well as on top of the gold mine. But as you said, you can have a tower there, and I think it's fair to expect players to kind of think and I'm against potentially what's the guy's name, Guangu or something, like the one who does the high beasts. I'm against him, so I will build a tower at my goal. I think that's reasonable. I really do think that's reasonable. But then again, if you're fighting, you don't have a tower everywhere where you're fighting. Like anywhere on the map, you kind of want to keep your army grouped. Maybe you're fighting over a PC or you're trying to attack or whatever, and it's just boom, they cast it on top of you, you die. So I would say speed nerf. I mean, 6.5 is a lot. Maybe 6 would be fine. And then, as you said, I thought your idea was really good about the spawn. 2 seconds it takes to spawn in, and ideally they're damageable. So if they cast it on top of your army, you have 2 seconds to DPS them down. I really think that's a good idea, actually.
If I may just very quickly, because we already seen this, we already know how this happens. If you look at Ancestor Eclipse, how it shifted from Legacy to Retold, we used to, in Legacy, cast Ancestor Eclipse on the backline on top of the army, and they spawn so quickly that it's worth it. But nowadays, if you want to fight with Ancestor Eclipse, and you use it on top of the army, they'll get picked off one by one. So what people have been doing is you spawn Ancestor Eclipse in the back of your army, and they slowly incorporate into the fight.
Yeah, is it one minion per second, or what are the stats on the spawning now? I saw this recently, but I forgot what the specifics
no
were,
idea.
you know? Because I know, for example, in the matchup where like Anubis is played against into Norse, right? Like the idea of either the Anubite jumps on the throwing axeman or the Plague of Serpents is cast on the throwing axeman, and then you just win with infantry, right? I think that's how that playstyle goes. I know that because the Serpent spawns so quickly, I think that it's always worth it to do, and I guess you can control them. But with the ancestors, I know I have seen situations where that was cast on throwing axemen, and I have never seen that work. So I think that is correct. Yeah. Isn't there anyone in the chat who has like the exact numbers on when the minions spawn, like how compared to Legacy? Wasn't there like a stats guy somewhere?
I think it's like a multiple minions per second, but now it's like I think 1 per second. I'm not 100% sure, honestly.
I'm surprised Magic doesn't have the numbers.
Nah, I stopped tracking the numbers a long time ago. Okay, so moving on. Do you guys want to move on, or you guys want to talk about anything else with China?
Not to be honest with China topic.
Well, there is a lot to talk about with China. For example, I think the clay villager GP should the villagers should not have any attack, so they cannot be abused to stop TCs. And Earthwall needs a lot of fixes, and just in general, like many fixes, because there's just it kind of feels like Shift in Sense in Voobly, where there's just so many uses. Like even if you nerf it a lot of times, it's still really good. So I think it just needs I don't know what exactly it needs to like summon slower, and it needs to maybe have less HP, or maybe even a smaller radius. There's a lot of bugs with it as well, where you can cast it in your enemy's base by zooming in.
You can do that. That's why.
Yeah. You can.
So, oh, sorry, go on.
I was just gonna say you can like cast it from your own base into the enemy's base almost by zooming in on the statue.
That's kind of wild, to be honest.
Oh, the wall bug?
Yeah, the earth wall.
Uh-huh.
So what I suggested for the when I say suggested, I mean in like the RBF Discord, is to have Earthwall only be castable on Baolai, which is the Chinese castle for those who don't know, and the town center, which is actually what it is cast on mostly at the moment. But this is just to avoid these abusive situations where someone builds like a granary or like the deep deposit site, I don't know what it's called, storehouse maybe. They build it next to your base and then they cast Earthwall and it like slices half of your base in half. I think that's kind of abusive. And similarly with the clay villages, I think if you would only allow it to be cast on favored land, I think that would also fix a lot of issues, because I think almost all of the abuse with the clay villages is when it is cast on some random spot on the map, like as you said, to stop a town center behind your base, to then build wall chips to turn those into watchtowers, and to also build like a house and cast the clay wall on there. And that is mostly the issue that I've been having. I think if you remove the attack, you don't target all of the possible abuse, because again, like building wall chips, you don't really need attack for that, right? You just cast them behind the opponent's base, you build some wall chips, boom. So if you would just not allow them to be cast anywhere on the map but on favorite land, you could use it for its what I think is its intended purpose, which is to boost your economy. It would be completely fine. I guess you couldn't cast it like somewhere on the edge of the map or like a gold mine and be sneaky, sure, but I mean you have to take some losses, right? You have to take some L's. That would be my suggestion. To just kind of tackle the utility of the god powers with where you can cast it and like what you can cast it on in the case of Claywell.
Yeah, I agree with both things. Like only on favorite lands and only on TC and the castles. I think those are two really good changes.
In one way, you don't want to try limit options. It's not very satisfying to know that you can do X and Y. You can, like Magic says, you need risks and rewards. You can lower their stats and slightly increase their gather rate, so you're losing out big time on resources and making them more vulnerable. They're not going to be that useful aggressively.
Yeah, but you can still make a palace, on someone's trade, and that gives you favorite land, right? And then you can still cast the god power. So there's still, a lot of possibilities.
You need the favored land to be connected from a town center.
Really? I thought the palace gives favorite
No.
land by itself as well.
No, it doesn't.
Oh, okay.
I think that god
Right.
power is never going to be enjoyable though, because it shuts down any type of aggro play that you might have. Like I remember I played a couple games on launch day where I was trying to be aggro, make some immortals, try to attack into, I think it was recon that I was playing, but the moment I attack into my opponent's base, he does the earth wall and all my units get trapped, especially if they're ranged units. And then that makes you not want to play aggro, which kind of, pigeonholes you into this like booming type of gameplay, which is not enjoyable for a lot of players. Like imagine if you spend like so much money on raiding cavalry, your opponent makes a second down center, and then he just traps all of your raiding cavalry in with the earth wall. I guess raiding cavalry you can kind of escape because it's melee, but with range units you can't really escape at all.
So the best way to fix that is to simply have a 15-second timer before the walls rise up, in my opinion. That way you can't instantly trap stuff.
Yeah. I think that's a
agree.
really good change too.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Needs to be counterplay, right? If you can walk out, it's completely fine, I think.
Like that enables it to have two counterplays, right? Like if you have melee units, you simply just move back from where he casted it, and then you just chill by the edge and immediately start trying to kill the wall when it comes up, when it's at its most vulnerable position, since they're easier to take down when they're coming up.
Yeah, sounds good. Also, fun fact about the clay wall: if you take down one segment, it decreases the HP of every other segment by 12.5%. So if you take down 8 wall segments, the entire wall crumbles. I think maybe that could be played with as well. I think maybe taking down 4 segments would already be sufficient. Because again, in the case where someone casts it's like right in my base, if I have to destroy 8 segments and now my entire base is just split and like I can't easily go to wood, to food, to goal, like whatever, it just feels kind of bad. I feel like if you are in a position where you can destroy 4 of those wall pieces, I feel like that should be maybe sufficient to take down the whole wall. So that's maybe an angle that you could look at as well. Just some ideas.
Honestly, I think it should have been a heroic god power, not a classical one. But I don't think they can change that now.
Yeah, it's too late for that.
And also something they can also not change. I think the Chinese have way too many archers. There's the Pioneer, the Fire Archer, the Turkanu, the Javelineer, and it's like a lot of games I see with China. I see like an army of 20 archers, different archers, like hidden down in Mictol. I don't think that's very intended, but that's a lot of the Chinese games.
Kind of a shame we don't have stable.
Yeah, I think they
Yeah.
really lack like another melee or horse
Like-
unit in the classic.
I think my preferred thing would have been Baule should train the heroes, and the what's it called? Instead of Imperial Academy, we just have a stable.
Oh my god, the heroes. Oh, don't get me started.
No, they're balanced. They're balanced. Move on.
Oh, okay, all right.
Do we
Um,
really want to move on from the heroes? I mean,
Yeah.
I know Nilra loves the heroes, but
Yeah, I know Jason is very problematic. You're right.
Yeah, it's insane.
and Theseus and Ajax and yeah.
all right, can we maybe switch the discussion to Norse? Because I don't know if you guys been watching my
yes.
stream, but like I feel like Norse has everything, every single tool in every single age. It just completely
Oh
busted Civ.
Norse has been overpowered since release, and they've gotten very little nerfs. And the funny part is, if you put like AIs against each other and you compare all the resources they get out of the end of the game, by far Norse has the most. And also, if you play like the campaign or the Arena of the Gods or just against AI in general, then the hardest games you're gonna get, like on legendary AI or extreme AI, it's always going to be Norse. The other civs are much easier, and the AI is very unbiased, right? So I think that should say a lot. Just the raw power of Norse, even if you don't play it right, is already very, very good. So
Mhm.
Yeah, Norse needs to be addressed, and especially with every other civ getting heavily nerfs, like it just keeps on making them stronger and stronger each patch.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
agreed.
what makes Norse strong?
I think
Their
they just have,
army,
yeah.
their
is
economy, I think,
their
for me.
economy, their army, their mobility, their like versatility, their god power timings, like it's just they can do whatever they want. Only thing that used to keep them in check was Egyptians, and now that they're basically not, like now Egyptian has turned into a civ where you actually need skill. You cannot rely on abusive things anymore, and which is why probably people think Egyptians are not as good. It just requires a lot of skill now compared to what it was before. And Norse is just so overtuned that they should now have no problem dealing with Egyptians.
Okay, so a question. Um, is there something inherently wrong with the Norse design? Or if you nerf their economy to a certain extent, which they already did somewhat with like a 2% nerf on the dwarves, if you maybe nerf their economy a little bit more, would that balance Norse? Do you think they have other problematic things?
I think the main problem are their gold bonuses and berserk, I would say.
Mm,
Like 20% counter damage bonus should not really be a thing. I think that needs to go. And to top it off, you have like the best generalist unit, which is a berserk, right? Super cheap as well. And just outperforms everything else because you can build anywhere, you can run around, raid with it, do whatever you want. And the unique text it gets from Forsetti and Bragi and Tyr just makes them the strongest, like most versatile, strongest late game infantry as well. And the
Mm,
fact that you have Civ that can get one line upgrade and it affects like 80-90% of their units makes them save so much more eco than any other Civ.
right, and not building with villagers.
Yeah, not building with villagers either.
And just to ask, because when you say Norse, this is four gods, right? Loki, Odin, Thor, Freyr. Are all four of these gods problematic to you? Or is it
Uh,
like maybe one is fine or maybe two
three
is
of
fine?
them, three of them are problematic. One, Odin is fine. Odin,
So, mhm.
So maybe we
Odin's
should look at why is Odin fine and why are the other three not?
because Odin doesn't have the infantry access
For
the
city.
others do. Yeah, and he doesn't have Forsetti,
Yeah,
and
that would also be my answer.
he doesn't
And
have
Freyr is
Bragi.
really,
Yeah, the Bragi, once you get into Bragi and Forsetti, you just get too much from them.
yeah. Yeah, that's also kind of how I look at it. The Fossetti Bragi is kind of OP, and Freyr is, I always say Freyr. I know people like to say Freyr, but Freyr is so unique that it's kind of hard to compare him. He's just so different, but for whatever reason it works. Maybe he's too strong. I don't know. But I guess we can get into that later. But so is it fair to say that maybe not Norse is the problem, but it's kind of Forseti or like a
It's
specific unit that is
Persetti
delayed?
paired
Yeah.
with god bonuses. Like the
Well,
god bonuses of Thor and Loki make it just too oppressive.
But
the way
Bragi as well, right? It's also Bragi. Because
Yeah, yeah.
imagine if Thor got instead of Bragi, if Thor got Njord, like would he still be like over the top? I mean, maybe, but you know,
I
it would
mean,
go down a lot.
he would probably be able to take into Cav more because he would go Freya into Njord and Ringiver Jarls. You know, would
Thor is different. Yeah, Thor doesn't matter. You can give him any minor heroic god, and he will do good with it just because of his start is just so strong. Some would say even if you give him Njord, it can even be a buff in some situations.
yeah.
So let's
I
say we
think
swap minor gods. Sorry, I'm interrupting you again. So
that's fine.
let's say we swap minor gods. Like we swap all of the minor gods from Odin with Thor. Is Thor still fine? And then the
No,
same question to Loki.
Uh, Thor's still fine. I would say would be still fine because of his god bonuses. Yeah,
he would
And
still
Loki
be
as well.
broken. Yeah.
yeah.
No, Thor. We should just talk about Thor mainly. Thor would be problematic with any minor god mixes. Period.
All right, so Thor we can kind of, I mean, if everyone agrees with that, of course, maybe Magic disagrees or maybe Flame disagrees. I don't know. Do you agree with that? Because I kind of do.
I
w-
think Thor is just problematic because just getting extra villagers that early, like it's way too strong. Like there shouldn't be no Sith that gets extra villagers. And on top of that, you also get the armor upgrades in classic. So your army is just also stronger as a reward. So you get, two for the price of one. Like that just shouldn't be a thing. And I think Loki's strong just because of the 20% bonus that they get. Like their army is just stronger. Like it's like a stat or like a bonus you can't really counter. And honestly, I think Norse is just strong, but if Thor and Loki weren't so strong, people would just play Odin. Like I think Odin is still strong. It's just people don't play him because there's better gods right now. And also, because Hunting is whatever right now, like Odin is not as good as he could be, because if we increase the food or for the hunt, right, and decrease the food in the base, then Odin would probably be a little bit better again, right?
He
So,
was OP on release, right? I think he was the best god,
yep.
and together with Poseidon, which seems really weird to say now, but I think that's how it was on release.
Yeah.
I also think that Odin is not really that weak either. I mean, I haven't played in a long time, but when I was playing, Odin would just like destroy Atlantean, at least for my
I
games.
agree.
So I'm not.
It's just like, why would you play Odin if you get free villagers on Thor, or you get like just stronger army on Loki, right? Or you get like Gulenburst and all the Freyr bullshit, right? Which is pretty fun, but like you get so much more on the other gods, right? So there's no reason to really play Odin, even though I think it's really good.
I think Odin is balanced, by the way. Like I think Odin is what a Civ should be in
No,
terms of
you're right.
balance.
It's because people are so used to how OP Thor and Loki are, so when they compare it to Odin, it just seems so
Lackluster.
bland, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But
I
whereas
agree.
if you take Greek, they're all shit, so you're not gonna single any one of them out.
Yeah, I think Odin is the like portrait of balance in my opinion. He's really good if you're really good with him, but he can also be bad because of imbalances in the game.
But for example, yesterday, right? I watched Mista stream and I see him only making Hersers, and he has like crazy amount of favor, and you're just spamming so many myth units. Like I was something like that in the game. Like I don't think that's very fun, to be fair.
Oh yeah, Lorenzo, didn't you have a suggestion in your video about that hammer upgrade for Thor?
The Hammer of Thor. So maybe this is me just kind of reminiscing or romanticizing Legacy, how it was there. But in Legacy, you would make as few Herseers as you could to fend off any myth units. So you would make like maybe 3, I think. It's like sometimes maybe even 2. If you were against Atlantean, you would make more because of Prometheans. But I think in general, to maximize how many heresies you would need to make, you would make as few as you could get away with. Whereas right now with Thor, I think something that also makes him very strong is you no longer have quote, because heresies are now insane for Thor. Like I think it's 15% damage, and they double the passive favor gather rate of having a Herseer. So you're no longer playing that dense. You can just make Herseers and it's never wrong. Whereas previously, or if hypothetically that upgrade would disappear, you could definitely make too many Herseers and be wrong, right? So I feel like if we would change that, and we don't give Thor like really good Herseers for, to me, like no reason, because either Freya or Forseti, both of them also have Herseer upgrades. And of course, you have the armor upgrades. I should note armor upgrades, they add more to heroes. A lot of people don't know that. So I just don't think Thor should be able to just make as many Herseers as he wants, and it's almost never a bad choice. I think there should be some thought behind that. And yeah,
Also, he stole like Loki's identity. Like, probably a lot of people disagree with me, but I wish they brought back like the whole Loki Herser spam. Like, I thought it personally was very fun. Maybe not the team
Hell
game so
no.
much, but
Hell no.
I really liked
too
it
toxic.
personally.
Ain't nobody
Way too
missing that.
toxic.
Nobody.
Way too toxic.
I think a lot of people actually miss it. Maybe like 50-50, but that's fine.
It's fun to play as, but it's definitely not fun to play against.
No, I really agree with Lorenzo here. I think like remember when the priests were really good against human units and everyone had a major problem with them and they got nerfed like to the ground like twice, I think double nerfed. I don't remember the exact details, but I remember people were saying that priests were way too good versus human units. But it feels like the Herser is good versus everything, and on top of that gets you favor and makes myth units completely unviable if you're spamming them. So I'm surprised that nobody's complaining about that when like, and just to put it into context, there was a tournament game, which I wasn't aware of this at the time, but Mista would just sit in his base with like 20 Herser, keep spamming Dwarven Goldmine, never leave his base, and just run around the map with Hersers, and I couldn't do absolutely anything versus them. So,
it's one on Ghost Lake, right?
Ghost Lake,
Or was
yeah.
it against you?
It was
that
Ghost Lake, yeah.
one. Yeah, he actually lost. He was like losing that one, but then he wins because again, you can't kill like the Dwarven Mind spam and like the favor gen. Like it's really oppressive. Yeah, I saw that game. Yeah, rough.
It's frustrating, right? Playing like somebody just, I always find it very frustrating when someone doesn't have to do anything to win. Like when you just have to sit in your base and just follow like, a formula that you devised before the game. Like if person does A, do B, and then you win. I don't think that's real strategy.
Yeah, no strategic diversity, basically. Yeah, doesn't feel good.
And I think then Mista taught that strategy to Recon, and he did it against me. I denied him on gold at 5 minutes. He made 20 Herser and got to Mythic just because of that.
There's just too many abusive
also
elements.
I remember that. That was a crazy game. Yeah.
You still won that one though, Pegasus, I think. Right?
Thank God. I mean, I did so much, but
I mean, he
Another
couldn't fucking
problem,
win that
like-
game. That was crazy.
Like, this can also present insane problems for certain. Like, you would say you want to build anti-infantry against Hersers, right? But they have so much favor, they can now spam trolls, and trolls will kill all your front line while they have the Hersers there as well.
it's just the upgrade. It's just problematic upgrade. It needs to be removed or changed.
Yeah, try playing archers against like mass cave troll, I think they're called now. I think they were hammer trolls in Legacy. Yeah, the cave troll upgrades, and then if you have like anything, throwing X-Men, Toxo T, like just I mean have fun, right? Like they can cancel the wind up too. So you will try to be like sneaky and dodgy, and then they just cancel the wind up, and it's brutal. And actually 2 weeks ago when Loki was bugged, I was like, well, I'm gonna abuse a little bit on the ladder, have a little bit of fun. So I was playing some, and I matched against Tunison, who was also playing Loki, and I did win that game. But the way I won that game is I think I had 20 trolls at the end, and it was just I think I had a screenshot actually of like all of the trolls. It was completely insane. I'll see if I can find it.
quick question for you guys and also for people in the chat. Are trolls balanced? Do you think trolls are balanced unit?
No. Their
Wait, who
A-wing
said
does
that?
too much
No.
damage.
I agree. So I'm wondering if I'm alone in this.
I think they would probably still be good even if you nerf them a little bit. So, yeah. I don't know.
I personally feel like the developers have like a soft spot for Norse though. Like the only civilization that can compete with China right now, it seems to be Norse. And to a slighter degree, it looks like Kronos is doing pretty well too. But I
The
don't
enemy
know.
of my enemy.
And then Egyptian just gets nerfed to the ground now. Like, and I don't know. It's kind of sad because I want to play this civilization, but I just can't. Either you be very abusive with them, or playing them straight up is just a nightmare. What do you guys think about archers before ballistics, like Toxite and, well, I guess it's only the Toxite, right? Maybe the fire archer.
Yeah, fire archer. Maybe no. Therma got their utility with the speed.
They
Even
talked
even
about- Oh, sorry,
yeah,
go on.
even Arcus, before ballistics. Or chariots without ballistics, but they also got the speed. Didn't somebody want to talk about chariots actually?
I don't know who wanted to talk about it, but I don't like the new change. I feel like the chariot got unnecessary amounts of hate. I think it was a very strong unit, and I do think it needed maybe a little bit of a nerf in some areas, but right now it just got like triple nerfed and just got completely
Actually,
changed.
I think they were fine. I think the problem was actually bone bow
Yeah.
and ballistics. Those two things were the problem. I think chariots were fine.
I think ballistics just ruin a lot of things in the game. Like at release, like the Hades archers were way too strong with it, and in original, they actually missed some arrows which balanced them out. But now they just hit like always, makes them very strong. And I think camos was a way bigger issue, also because crenellations was not buffed yet.
I agree. Yeah, go
Mm.
ahead. Sorry.
Ballistics is a massive topic. It's just, yeah.
Yeah, I mean they're never going to remove it, right? But I don't think it should have been ever in the game.
I think it should be removed, to be honest with you. I think like now it's basically make archers after ballistics, they're good. If you make them before, they're mediocre to bad, right? Like the Greek aggro with Toxitates in the H2 has been completely removed, I think, from the game. Like no one wants to make Toxitate early on. Whereas in the old version of the game, it was actually viable.
I love making proximity against Greek classical, Egyptian classical though. Because you have like myth units, they have priests, they're like 100 gold, 14 range or something. Like 0 pierce armor, right? Like it's so easy to just they pick off the priests. But I agree against pretty much everything else, like Norse, Atlantean especially. Like they feel a bit underwhelming, yeah.
I guess it's also like the bonus damage and stuff. Like they feel very squishy overall.
Is divine damage on the menu? Is this something we want to talk about, or is it not problematic?
I think divine damage should be only in mythic. I don't think it should be a thing in classical or maybe heroic. I think it should be like a mythic age thing, if that even.
I think it should only apply to heroes and certain mythic age myth units. I think having it on classical heroic availability just kind of takes out
The divinity.
Yeah. Like you shouldn't just need to build one single unit, cough cough Murmillo, and beat the ever living shit out of every single unit just because you have some true damage in your kit.
Low-key, I like the divine damage. The only like situation where I don't like it is the priest versus colossus interaction.
Yes, thank you.
That seems yeah, That's really the only thing. But I don't know if that is actually an issue or whether that's just me kind of reminiscing about Legacy, how you could make Colossus and like not lose the game. I don't like the Priest versus Colossus interaction, but for everything else, it seems kind of fine. There's probably some cases which you could bring up, and I would be like, yeah, actually, I haven't thought about it. That's kind of problematic. But just off the top of my head, it's
But isn't it priests versus everything? Just Colossus?
yeah, kind of as well, because some myth units kind of rely on their defenses, so like their Pierce armor, Hack armor, and to negate that as like just like a blank sweep, like oh, it's now negated. The only thing that matters is your hit points. I don't think that's good design per se.
I agree.
Yeah. So maybe yeah, for priest, oh man, I don't really like it. But what I also didn't like in Legacy was that you needed 20 priests to make sure that the Colossus didn't right-click your town center and you couldn't do anything. Right? That was also a bit too much. So if we could just have like maybe some sort of like midway settle points.
But in
Yeah.
Legacy, there was. In Legacy, you had Nepthi priests, and if you were raw, you would go Osiris for the mummies, and that was the way to counter it, right?
I mean, the Bellerophon, like even the Nephthys priest against Colossus wasn't like that great. I don't know, man.
I think they did good enough of a job to where they were a threat. Like both of them were a threat. You can't mindlessly throw Colossus there without like having a plan ahead, and you couldn't mindlessly build priests like you can now. Because priests right now, you should have like more than a handful in your army always. I find.
Can I ask? So I have one suggestion, but it's leading me to some different conclusions. Okay, let me tell you the suggestion. We can revert priests back to pierce damage, but the Nephthys upgrade still would add 1 divine damage, so it would be a mix of pierce and divine. But that makes me wonder about Nephthys. Is Nephthys in a good spot? Would that make it a more specialized in dealing with myth units a good thing?
I think, yeah, that would be a good change, but I think what the problem right now is people can't pass up on how strong Sekhmet is because of the Citadel Center.
Mm-hmm.
So going for Nephthys is just an option for ISIS, right?
Right, but with that change, the segment priests would be much shittier against myth units, and that would be like a downside.
Yeah, and now suddenly it's fine. Like you can play into that easy. You can play around it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I do agree with that change. That would be a nice change to see.
Magic, please do let me know what you think about it.
I'm not sure about that one.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't really played enough Egyptian to really give my comments on that.
You haven't played much at all. Why not? Too busy?
Yeah, but work has been killing me recently. But I'm gonna start playing soon. What about you? How come? Yeah, that could be another topic. Why did you stop playing? I stopped playing because of work. So it's nothing AOM related. Why did you stop playing?
I think it's getting too stale for me. Maybe balance-wise as well. And I guess right elo is meaningless at this point. Also the queues are pretty long. It's very hard to find someone in. You need to play on a specific time, and sometimes you're just not gonna be free at that time. But for me, as biased as I can be, I just enjoy Greek. I really like playing Greek. Now I'm coming at it from a casual perspective. If what I enjoy playing is just not viable, I'm just not gonna have fun playing. I can win with China or maybe Norse, but I just want to play Greek. And Greek situation is kind of, I don't know, horrendous in my opinion with the heroes.
Yeah.
Just the heroes?
Sorry?
Is it just the heroes?
Is it just the heroes?
I've not been happy, like even discounting the heroes. Like
I'm
for
quite
example,
certain Greek
It's a-
army is one of the weaker ones out of the
Yeah.
civs.
I agree. It's a few things. It's the Hermes and Ares armies being underwhelming. It's
Yeah.
the fortresses in siege, like you said, heroic siege is horrendous. And increasing the cost of Mythic Age also nerfed them quite a bit.
Yeah, so whenever I've tried to play like Poseidon, let's say I'm playing Poseidon on any random land map against any random Norse player, uh, I will try to abuse as much as possible, like up 3 minutes, 15 seconds, centaur on the goal, heroes out, all of the good stuff. And then I feel like really good, but then eventually they kind of stabilize, and then they make like 5 or 6 herdmen, and I can't stop them from like grabbing town centers, and like I'm just slowly losing, and there's nothing I can do. And then I hit heroic, and even if I have like a little bit of an army advantage, there's no way for me to take out like any fort, town center, or base, or whatever, right? Because I make the fortress 300 wood, 300 gold, 10 favor. Then I need to make the Petrobolos at least one. It's 150 wood, I think, and 200 gold, which is insane. And on top of that, none of those two add any value to my army as soon as I like go outside of the fortress range. So it just seems never worth it. And again, you're not making one Petropolis, right? Because you can just out repair it, especially if you're Friar and your repair is free and you can repair it hills. So it just seems that I don't have a good way of dealing with buildings. And I've actually downloaded all of the Poseidon and Hades in X, not Zeus, because again, the bonus for infantry against buildings kind of helps, as well as faster hoplites. And what I've noticed is that how top level players deal with this is they just go Artemis, right? That's just how they deal with buildings. They can't do anything else. And then hopefully they win by that. And if Artemis is not enough, then they just lose the game. That's like all of the games I've watched in the past, like weeks probably.
Yeah, Artemis is a way to kind of get around it, but you want to go Artemis either way because it is the late game god.
Chefs of Plague, right?
Right. Hephaestus is too underwhelming. So I think people would go Artemis either way. Let's say Artemis had Plentyvold and Hephaestus had Earthquake. I think people would just still go Artemis in that case. Also,
Yeah.
Heliopolis. I feel like Heliopolis, whatever it's called, Heliopolis, it is also underwhelming and kind of shit in my opinion.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
it was so brutal in
the
Legacy.
way I look at it is it's a free 500 resource sink. You just give it to your opponent. Might as well delete it. It's so useless. You cannot get into a game state where they're useful at all, and even if you do, they're still not good enough.
What makes them so bad? Just their DPS, or
Their damage isn't taking buildings down once they get to like because of how strong the repair is. Like a few villagers should be easily able to either kill them or out repair them in the late game with like building upgrades where you can actually make those siege without a problem. So you're more often than not, if you're not Zeus, you have to win the game not by killing buildings or taking map space, but simply killing villagers or destroying his eco so that he can't keep trading. You cannot push. And it's because of the siege being this bad.
Yeah.
Do we like siege against siege damage?
No,
No.
I personally.
I don't like it at all.
I hated that so much in AoE 4. I really don't want AOM to be the same in that aspect.
They removed it in AoE4 too. A lot of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. They got rid of the
I think-
unit springled. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great starting point, in my opinion, to just do that change and see how it goes.
I also think like Chemo said this as well, and he said all siege units suck in retold. Is that really the case? Because I do feel that way, but I've never actually looked at the stats and compared them to Legacy. In Legacy, I would make siege units all the time in H3 and just try to push, but now it doesn't look like anyone really does.
Midnight's amazing, right? From Norse and Mythic. It's like the win condition in like most games that go that far. It's like the ballista waiting, That is how I call it. Like when I'm playing against Norse and I can't push, it's like I'm in the ballista waiting. Like I'm gonna lose, right? Because it destroys everything. Aside from that, I think everything else is underwhelming, yeah.
Do we want siege units to be completely crushed by god powers because of the crush damage they do, like Tempest and Earthquake and
Oh
you
man,
know?
that's such a good point because I have like nightmares of trying to push against Freyr, who who grabs a forward town center and you just cannot get him off it. Like the Masons is so cheap, like they will have it. Like you will make a fortress wall in your Petrobolos, and then it's like Gulen Bursty, bam, you lose like 600 gold and like 450 wood of like siege. Then you like restabilize because you're still winning because you're the better player here, right? Like you're winning, etc. You're pushing him forward, and then boom, Tempest, and all of your siege dies again. And it's like, wow, why? Like, how am I actually supposed to do this? And by that time, like you've eaten the Gulen Bursty, you've lost siege. You've eaten the Tempest, you've lost siege. And by that time, you're behind, and you can no longer take down the town center. Fortified town center has come in for him. Architect has come in for him. His army upgrades have come in, and it's like, wow, I totally lost my window, and there's nothing I can do here. Like I'm just playing the wrong strategy. I should sit back and either just lose to the ballista waiting room, or I should go mythic with Artemis and see if I can push like that or do something else. It doesn't feel good to me.
Yeah, siege definitely needs examination by the devs.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, your 20 Cheerio Ballista example getting decimated by an earthquake. Cheerios, oh my god. We need a different podcast for Cheerio Ballista alone.
All right, guys, can we talk about decay real quick? Like, I
Yeah,
think
it's a
that's
good
something
point.
that's very important.
As
Like,
just to bring it up, I haven't played at all, and I'm still top 5, which is kind of even Pegasus is top 5, and he hasn't played in like ages.
like this might be me just misremembering how ESO used to be, but I'm pretty sure you would lose like 15 to 20 points every Sunday or every weekend. I'm not sure if I'm correct, but
20 points, and it was, I want to say every week. It was for sure 20 points, and you could not decay below 1800. But yeah, you would lose 20 points. And I mean, someone needs to like clarify whether it was every week or every 2 weeks. I'm pretty sure it was every week, but
I think it was every week. But either way, right? Like we should have a very aggressive decay in the game and like actually motivate people to like play, because right now people are point sitting also because there's not enough rewards for rank, but just decay alone will make a lot of people play the game like at least a few games every week, so they stay on top of the ladder. Like I think that's like a no-brainer. Like right now I was like I think rank 10 on the team game leaderboard, and then I haven't played in like months and I'm still like top 40 or top 50. I've barely lost any points. Like that makes like absolutely no sense. Like it should be way more.
so when you say way more, could you maybe define on what you would consider like maybe an okay amount of DK? And maybe you can also specify whether you want this to be for like only top 20, only top 100. Maybe you want a complex rule where top 20 had like more DK or more often a DK compared to like top 100 or 1000, or maybe it's like a rating cutoff, like it was an old ESO with like 1800. How would you see this?
I think maybe top 300 or top 400. I don't know what percentage that is, but I think that would be a good cutoff point. Maybe 1500 or 1600, where it doesn't decay anymore, or gradually less and less decay. The higher you get, the more decay you get. But I think it should be around 20 to 25 points every week, like every Sunday. Every like Sunday evening, you got to get your games in. And I think that would help a lot.
I don't think that would do too much, honestly. Like at that point, people who don't even want to play won't even play. If if they know they're gonna lose their ranking anyway, they won't even play it to begin with. There has to be an incentive beyond staying in the top. There has to be some form of reward, or like getting into the top, like a special rank where it's like top 5, top 10, and then you have Grandmaster Challenger, blah blah blah. It won't.
I think people would definitely play a little bit more if there was a lot of decay. I think
The
people
decay
care
right
about their
now
rank.
is 20 every 2 weeks. I think.
No,
Now,
it's
now,
way less than that.
I'll give you myself as an example. If there was decay, I would probably play a little bit more to maintain a rank, I guess.
And you know the thing is, like, if you know, for example, Pegasus plays a few games, right, and then he loses one game, and then he is like fucking pissed, right, because he lost to some person he didn't want to lose to, and then he'll play like 10 more games that day, and then he's addicted again. He's back in. So I think it's very good.
What do you guys think of the Chariot Archer?
I think it's fine, to be honest.
You like the new Chariot Archer? Or you like the old one?
I think the nerf wasn't necessary. I think that's kind of like an unpopular opinion because people like to hate on Chariot Archers. Well, it's mostly soup, I think. Maybe some, like a little bit of rebel. But the Chariot Archer, I've never found it to be problematic, except like when they buffed Ra, and you would see like the segment bone bow tech come in with like the natural Ra bonus. I think in that case, especially against Norse, with like the migdals where they would be hide behind it and just go Osiris. Like I think that was too oppressive, for sure. Against everything else, it was probably fine. I
This
think.
got fixed, by the way, when they fixed when they reduced the Huskarl training time. This would have been fixed if Bone Bow was addressed, but it wasn't. So they decided to nerf it even more. Chariot last patch was completely fine. The only problem is Bone Bow.
I
It
agree.
needs either a rework or just
Probably true.
boosting.
Yeah, because I
Huskarl
remember.
destroy them.
For sure. And I also remember I was watching Rapple play Greek against Emo's set on, I think, Savannah. I think maybe you saw this game too. I know Recon saw it because he was like kind of triggering Rapple in the chat. And I was watching that and I was like, the only reason because he had like a full Peltas army that was losing against full Chariot archers, which if you put it like that, it sounds well because it's like the hard counter unit is losing to like the unit is supposed to counter, right? But if you look at the game, you actually see that Chemo is just like he never gets in range of the Peltas. He just goes back, then he goes forward. He goes back, he goes forward. He goes
That's the problem. Yeah, it was
Exactly.
never the chariots.
Yeah, and to top it off, I think Rappel actually had a fortress at his gold, and he was fighting over nothing. He was just moving out in the open to try and kill the chariots. So even in this situation, if he just kind of hides behind the fortress and just waits until like mythic supportive units, frontline, whatever, like I think he would have been fine even, maybe even in a dominant position. But because he's like trying to fight a unit that outrages him. Like it doesn't matter what the multiplier is of Spellcast against Chariot Archer. The Chariot Archer has 4 more range, right? So yeah, the Bone Bow was, I think, was the main issue here.
I disagree that chariots were fine. I don't think chariots were fine. Can you tell me, Magic? I'm sure you know this by heart. Last patch with the chariot DPS, was it the same as Arcus or what was it?
Yeah, it was higher than the. I think it was around the same or higher. I don't remember.
That itself is problematic in my opinion. One
I
unit
agree.
should not be good at everything. Chariots were good at everything, but they got a double nerf or triple nerf. What was it in this patch? The range got nerfed, the DPS got nerfed. Anything else?
Migdal costing more is also an indirect nerf.
The what? Migdol is costing, yeah. I did not
I
think
think
about
hit
that.
points too, or am I mistaken? -5, I thought.
That
Maybe
was
I'm wrong here
a
though.
patch before that, I think.
Ah, yeah, true.
So I think if they kept the DPS at 11 but nerfed it by the one range, I think it would be in a great place.
Yes.
I think you should compare this unit to Arcus always. It has mobility, it needs to lose something. So one range.
But this is also a unit you can't really. You have to get Migdals out to make, right? Whereas Arcus, you can just get them through your Raxes. And I'm not. I still think that they shouldn't have more DPS or the same DPS as Arcus. So that could be something you're right about.
Yeah, as a slow unit that can get flanked, yeah.
I can agree with that. I'm actually going to pull it up right now. Let's see. Oops. This is my old one. I didn't update anything, so let's see.
could also go to the AOM wiki, because there they have the entire change log if you just go to the Chariot Archer page, so you can see exactly
This is the old.
what got changed to it.
I think I have the old stuff here, which is what we were talking about. So maybe it should be sufficient. But it's about this the arc. Like this is the old this is the old Chariot Archer, right? With 11 damage, yeah. So DPS per cost, the Arcus was still higher than the Chariot Archer.
No,
DPS per pop
Very-
still higher. The Chariot Archer was a little bit tankier, but it also had an extra counter, which is anti-cavalry. So I think that like they weren't that far off. Arcus was still has slightly higher DPS.
more or less identical, it seems.
Yeah, it's pretty close.
Yeah, the only toxic thing about the chariots was the range plus mobility, the combination of those two. With 19 range, I don't see a problem.
If you're
If,
gonna, yeah, I can give you that. Like if you were gonna make the Chariot Archer 19 range, keep everything else the same, I think it would have been a perfectly fine unit. I don't think it
agree.
needed double nerfs. Then again, it got an triple.
with the Migdal nerfs.
True, yeah. I think
Because remember, you always need 2 Migdals to actually produce, whereas Arcus can always be produced from military barracks, right?
yeah. Somebody asked, do the devs interact with the pros? They used to, but the problem is they interact with some pros and then the other pros don't. Like there's even amongst like top 20 players, everyone has a differing viewpoint on balance, I would say. So it's hard to really say, you know, if you talk to the pros, you're going to have the right mindset on how to change things because everyone has a different opinion. But I think like players who play every civ and are just generally impartial are the people that should be listened to. I think Nora is one of them, as far as I can tell.
I only have a little bit of bias towards Greek.
Like Chemo, for example, doesn't play Norse at all, so he's going to be anti-Norse just by, you know, just by his the fact that he doesn't play any Norse at all. So you can't really take his viewpoint on balance for every point.
And then we have Stoop, who just really loves Norse.
Yeah, exactly.
No
I'm
hate
a
against
Norse
Stoop, by the
hater,
way.
but
I love
I've
Stoop.
never talked bad about Odin. Why? Because it's actually balanced. I only like lift up the things that are affecting the game negatively, which is Thor, Loki, Freyr, and the bad stuff, which is a lot more. Like I was one of the people who were saying Sarissa was broken and Resto was broken and they need a change. I was one of the people, even though I main Greek and I love Greek, I was still for the nerfs. But I was never for the nerfs where they don't get anything in return.
Me too. That was the first. It was like the first or second post I made in the Discord in general is the Sarissa nerfs, and they went through the Sarissa nerfs, and I was pissed because we did not get anything in return. So
Yeah, I was expecting something too.
it was
Maybe
abandoned.
this is,
Yeah.
sorry, maybe this is a good segue to ask if there is something that people absolutely don't understand about how the game is being patched or what is like not being patched or the way how things are being patched. Maybe if I can give an example if anyone wants, or if anyone wants to start. Then...
Give an example, please.
Yeah, so for me, one thing I don't understand is how you have the bonuses, which it doesn't really feel like you can play towards it. They are just there, how they are prolonged and how they are kind of used as a balance mechanism. So the best example, I think, is the Loki bonus damage. This is just there, right? Like whether you're a 500 ELO player or whether you're Demista or Recon or whatever, like this is going to be the same, right? It's just there. You're not really using it. Whereas, for example, I mean, Good and Bursty, I mean, is it the God bonus? It does have a line in the God bonus section, but I mean, that is very different, right? Like a pro player using good university will use it very differently from a bad player. So you have this tool that is available to you sometimes, and depending on the wielder, it can be great. If you have a great carpenter and you give them a hammer, great. If you give someone who has never held a hammer bit, not so great. The issue I have with bonuses that don't really seem to interact with player skill, that are just kind of background bonuses, are, for example, the low-key 20% bonus damage. It's just there, like you can't do anything with. Low-key 10% faster build rate. I mean, woohoo, but again, you're not really doing anything with that either, right? And then what I saw, for example, is the low-key bonus damage used to be higher. So the fact that they are nerfing that, I think they nerfed it from 25 to 20, correct me if I'm wrong. But
Yes.
to nerf that, it just seems so, it's so boring, you know, because you're not really interacting with it. It's just, haha, my unit does a bit more damage, and whether I'm 500 or like 2.5k, like it's gonna be the same, right? So to me, I would rather see those type of bonuses that you don't really interact with, that are like background bonuses. I would prefer to see them reduced or removed, especially if they are very strong. Because let's be real, the low-key bonus damage, it's very strong, right? And on top of that, you can't really play towards it or for it. It's just something that's there. So that's probably the worst offender. I would love to see those bonuses kind of reworked into something that feels good to use and is like something that's like actionable for the player. So that's something I don't really understand from the devs, how they are intent on keeping those bonuses instead of kind of changing it to something that's more actionable. And this doesn't have to be a Civ specific bonus. For example, the favor generation of Chinese, it is kind of actionable because you want to spread out, and as soon as you're spreading out, you're more vulnerable to attacks, so it's not quite as bad as the low-key bonus. But it feels kind of boring, like the Atlantean Legacy favor generation, where it's like, oh, your town center generates favor. It's like woohoo, right? It's. I would love to see more like decision making in the process of like how to use your bonuses or how to do whatever instead of these things, which it's always going to be like it's going to be XYZ and that's it. You know, I don't know if I'm making sense. I'm rambling a little bit, but
No, I completely agree. It's just at release when classic fights were more common, it felt so bad playing against Loki. Because Loki, every time, you know, you have 20 turn X-Men on the Thor side or the Odin side and 20 turn X-Men on the Loki side, and Loki would just win every time. Like, it doesn't feel fun. It's not very interactive. There's just
yeah,
nothing, you know, you can do about it. And about Nua, for example, right? Like the auto build feature, like it feels like it's not part of the game. Like it shouldn't be in the game. Like it AOM doesn't have the mechanic, like it's not built in correctly. Like with Protoss, you have like a special button for it, right? Like to teleport your buildings in. But for Nua, it's like you have to shift click the villager first. And if you don't, the villager will actually go build that building. So you'll have to always shift click it, which doesn't feel satisfying. And then it will auto build, right? And it's just a mechanic. I feel like maybe it's, you know, easier for noobs, but it doesn't feel, it feels very cheap, like very cheaply made. For example, like the tiger calf, right? Like a unit just spawns near it when it dies. Like it doesn't, there's no animation, right? When the tiger calf dies, it just spawns near it in like the vicinity. Like stuff like that really cheapens the experience, I feel like, when you have stuff like that in the game.
yeah, I think the auto build is kind of similar to the low key bonus because it's just something, and now you're stronger. You can't really do anything cool with it except for like block a player in, but that's actually kind of toxic, and I would rather see that
Yeah,
gone, especially with Watts.
it's very
So
toxic.
that's so like the only thing that you can kind of do with it that's actionable is like blocking people in when they're attacking, and that's actually something I don't want because it's toxic. Um, so it's just like, okay, here you have a bonus to your economy, you know. Mhm. Uh, yeah, I mean, I guess it's also kind of on a spectrum because, for example, Thor has cheaper dwarves, right? Like, do you really feel that? Let's be real here. Do you have games where you're like, wow, this 10 gold cheaper dwarf is, oh, it's actionable. And so again, it's a spectrum, and we are drawing kind of an arbitrary line here as to what we consider kind of lame and boring and non-actionable, like the low key bonus is get the worst offended in my opinion. Um, and like some things they're like, okay, this is probably fine, right? But yeah, I hope everyone kind of gets the point because it's kind of hard for me to put into words like my issue with, for example, the Loki bonus and why I don't think the Paul Dwarf bonus is that bad.
Yep, I fully agree.
I agree, especially in Age of Mythology. This game is all about god identity. You don't want to have these boring bonuses. We see an example of this in Age of Empires 2. These kind of bonuses do apply there, but that's because like most of the civs, bare bones are identical. So and there are so many civs, so sometimes you'll see faster wood chopping, faster farming, these percentage bonuses, faster shooting archers. Makes sense in AoE too, but in a mythology game, like you can shape the gameplay of a god so much by just having these small bonuses. Like Poseidon can open with Cav because of the speed. Loki used to do the same thing with the Herser speed. Um,
You can also look at Raw with its HP bonus on Migdol units.
Yeah, fair point.
I think those things where it's a god automatically becomes better just because it has a god bonus, I think that's not very good for the game. Rather, like, why not have it 10% cheaper instead of 10% hit points bonus, right? That's just an example of Raw. You can put this into many other things. Like, Poseidon used to have cheaper Cav, but now you have a cheaper stable and 0.4% faster movement speed.
So what are some bonuses that we really like that are like feel actionable? So I will immediately put the obvious one. I think Freya's bonus with the upgrades. I think that is so cool. I think that is really, really cool, just as an example. And I think Odin's Ravens are also really cool. And I mean, I can go on, but are there some bonuses where you're like, wow, this is such a well done bonus?
I think Lush, like the idea of it is pretty cool. Probably
Yeah,
not
that's really
executed the
cool.
best, but it is a cool idea.
All right, I think we gotta wrap it up because I gotta get going. Do you guys want? I don't know if there's any questions in the chat. Are there questions in the chat?
Could I like mention just a few things real quick?
Yeah.
Like some issues. So you know, obviously the FPS drops this patch it's really, really bad. It needs to be fixed.
Mm.
And let me see, let me look at my list. The AI doesn't really work on a lot of maps that have water, and on Nomad they get really buggy. I think that's really hurting the casual player base in general. I think there should be a co-op campaign. I think a new daily feature is really bad. I kind of disappointed with that. The whole lobby system, like the UI, it needs to be like way better. Maybe we can talk about it another time. I think quick match and ranked should be like merged together. And like why do we have to sign into Xbox for like everything? I think that's like a big barrier for like creating clans for a bunch of stuff in the game. I think that's very weird. And there's more stuff, but maybe we'll get to that in our podcast. But no.
Do you guys
We can always go again. I think, yeah, I'm pretty
I
much done.
think I think one thing that should be added as soon as possible is ranked season, and if not ranked seasons, if that takes a while longer, then at least ladder resets. Because right now, like the ladder is full of Smurfs. Like in the top 20, you have at least only 7 or 9 unique people. Rest of it is Smurfs, and you can Smurf because of the decay, right? But if you have ladder resets, now you'll no longer have time to play on your Smurfs and get them all to the top. You'll have unique players taking those spots, which means more people are likely to fight for those spots. So something like a bi-monthly ladder reset could keep
But not
the...
like an MR set, right? Just the points. Because else you get like, random Bob from down the street against Kabot. rounds too, right? That would not be
I
good.
mean, Kvoth plays against them regardless, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, that's true, I guess. Yeah, because he
Yeah.
plays at the fourth time, right? Like 10
Yeah.
a.m.
Yeah.
But if you again, I don't want to drag it on for too long, but if you would also reset the MMR, I think that would be bad. I think doing
Anything
like
would
a
do.
yeah,
Fine, in
just
my
something
opinion.
for points. I think that would be fine actually, points, and you would also kind of fight the point inflation that occurs over time, so that 2K stays kind of like 2K, and not that in like a year's time we are at 3K, you know, and like Bob down the street is at 2K. That would be crazy too. But yeah.
Yep. But
Good
Magic,
sides.
if you can like if you toggle your score real quick, if you press like F10 or F11, I think.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
I don't know why.
And anyway, like in the game, right? Like it doesn't show, that you're like part of a clan, right? Like it's very inconsistent. Like some places it shows, some places it doesn't, right? I think that's also, kind of bad for the game in a way.
Like this, I can't. This god power seems like it has so much abusive uses. You can just use the pioneers or the creation god power and then put down a house or something in your opponent's base and then use the wall, block him off gold and stuff.
Yeah, that's what I meant with like it's kind of like shift in sense where it doesn't matter how many times you nerf it. Well, I guess if you make it only on TC and Palace, that will solve that issue as well, right? But
Yeah. Do you guys mind if Eric comes on for a couple minutes to give his thoughts?
yeah, let him yap,
Oh, we'd love to. Let's have Eric on for a bit. Why not?
All right, let's end it. Let's end it with a banger.
The wild dog out, the mad dog. Also, the hitboxes, man. The hitboxes are so bad. It pisses me off. It's like I'm trying to click like a lumber camp and this fat
my
tree is
God.
in the way.
The hardest thing in the game is depositing food with lure. onto
Yeah,
server.
yeah.
Oh
Oh
yeah,
my
man. Yeah, holy.
Like
That is just
how is
yeah.
this still an issue in the game? It just blows my mind that so many units have hitbox issues. It
Hello.
just blows my mind. Yo, man.
Yeah. How's
Alright.
it going?
Eric, what are your thoughts? We all curious to hear them.
So, what do you want me to flame on?
No flaming. Just give your honest thoughts about the game.
Okay. I have to think where to start off. Like, I don't understand how China was released like that. I mean, you guys probably talk about that before, right? Like, didn't you?
We did, yeah.
Yeah, we did a lot.
Like, who even tested the game? Like, what the fuck, man? Like, I understand you, like, okay, I'm gonna release a game that is broken, so people pay for my DLC, but you have to have like a backup pre-patch made, like so you release it week later. So you get to balance it after people paid for it. But it's 2 weeks now. We're gonna join the tournament. There's gonna be no patch, or even worse, they're gonna release the patch the day of the tournament, like they did
Or-
before.
Or in the middle of the tournament, like they did before.
Yes. And this is something that I want to flame again. And some people know about the fucking patch. They know what's gonna happen on the tournament. They know what's the content of the patch. They have free access to it.
I don't think anyone has pre-access anymore. Well, I could be wrong. I don't have pre-access anymore.
I think some people do. No, I don't mean you, by the way. I just think some
I
people.
mean, I used to have,
like,
but not anymore. Just letting you know.
Yeah.
Who has
It's not like-
pre-access?
I don't chase any player. You just the flame to devs, And it's like, why the fuck do you give privilege information and like privilege any sort of like advantage?
That's a whole topic, man.
I mean,
The
the
goal is not-
easiest way to put it is if they want pre-access testers, these pre-access testers should not participate in the tournament. I think that's what Eric says here.
Like, if you have any sort of privileged
say-
information, you should either like leak into everyone, just you should, like turn it public, at least to let people, the top players that are gonna play the tournament, right? Or just don't give it. Like, what the fuck? How is it so hard?
I think it's because they rely on some of the top players for their balanced decision making, right? So that's why they.
I mean, I agree.
Yeah.
But like, let's say for example, I mean, we all know who the fuck we're talking about, right? So let's say like the top 3 players. So Mista, Recon, and Magic right now. So you can say like, okay, let's say Hagrid goes into your DMs, and like, okay, Magic, what do you think is wrong with the game? Like, what he should do, in my opinion, is like just post it on the Discord. You know, like there's a top players Discord. Just so, okay, Magic gave me this tip right here. What do you guys think about it?
Yeah, so I actually suggested we have some sort of public beta test realm. So before a patch is pushed through, you can install a beta build of the game, and then on that beta build you can play the upcoming patch, and then you can give feedback, and then in like the last moment they can gather more data from that, and then they can patch the game according to that. That is what I suggest.
Yeah, I
agree.
completely agree with that.
Yeah, that's good.
Like some sort of public build, right? Like at least for the top players. Like, and when I mean top, I don't mean like 3 or 4. I mean like 20, 30.
I think the problem
even
is when
more.
you open it up for everyone, everyone has such differing viewpoints on balance and stuff, and then you have some people that, like for example, just Chemo, who doesn't play Norse at all, and when he says like Norse is really broken, you can't really validate his thoughts because it could just be bias that's speaking, right? So
Man, you love saying that Chemo doesn't play Norse. It's almost like you're trying to like subtly like needle him, like you're like, oh, Chemo doesn't, you know?
it's the easiest example I can think of at the top of my head. I don't know anyone who else who doesn't play an entire Civ, a top player. So I think Eric doesn't
It's
play
probably only him.
Egypt, right? You don't play Egypt, do you?
I do my abuse sometimes.
I do
Yeah.
my abuse. So he doesn't play Egypt, she just plays the abuse.
Yes, perfectly. It's
I
exactly
think
exactly
a
it.
big issue is that the value you're giving the pre-access knowledge and the advantage players get in tournaments, you're giving it a lot of value. I think the devs don't really give it as much value as you. I think that's kind of where the disconnect.
Yeah, they don't give a
just don't
shit.
really care. Yeah, exactly. They just don't really care. That's what I think. So you get kind of this disconnect where you view this as like an important issue, and the dev is like, yeah, I mean, it's not that big of an issue. You know, it's like that. That's kind of what I'm getting for vibe.
Oh, by the way, Magic, you play Egypt in Paris 4. Did it happen there as well? Like
Sorry,
some
say
people had.
AoE 4?
Yes. Did it happen there as well?
Not like this. No, this is much worse. What happened in AOM was much worse.
Oh my god.
Because in AOM, like I was on the council too, and I did bring this up, by the way. I know I was not to my benefit, but I tried to get a lot of you guys in, but I mean, actually, I don't think I can say anything. It's all under NDA, so maybe I can't say
Don't
anything.
put yourself in
He
trouble.
was denied actually. Beastie Cutie applied, I think, 2 times, and he was denied for it, and he was very salty about it. So
Yeah, he's right about it though. Like people that have free access, they shouldn't be able to play the tournament. Like you have be giving this guy the choice. Like, okay, you wanna test it? Don't play the tournament.
Well,
it
I
is like
think
this in other games too. Like for example, I play Path of Exile. There were like alpha testing, beta testing before a new league is released, and then players who had pre-access, they can still participate, but they're not eligible to win any prizes. So if they are, for example, top 1, then the person below them is counted as top 1, as an example.
Yeah.
Eric, are you positive people are still getting pre-access info, like patch info, or you just it's
I
just
have no clue. No.
you're
Like
just guessing?
I know that. Yeah, I mean, like for what happened in the past. Like, I mean, a lot of people that I know had like info about next patches and stuff like this. Like they never say, but you get like other people tell you about stuff like this because someone tell them.
That's
It
true.
always goes like this, like gossip, right?
Yeah,
So,
that was the past though. And in the currently, I don't think anyone has. I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't think it's happening anymore. I think they stopped it. So
yeah, I have no clue. Like the only thing that I know that happens is about the patches. Like just as you said, like it's logical that Hagrid goes into top players' DMs and asks them like suggestions, right? And
Mhm.
because of that, they end up having privileged information for the next patch. And this is actually like this is not the same as playing in the next patch or playing like a pre-access stuff, but it's something. It's like knowledge. You can develop some ideas in your head like before other people.
Yeah, I think this tournament we're gonna get is probably gonna be one of the fairest tournaments that we've seen, compared to the previous ones at least. So
Oh yeah, for sure.
I don't know, man.
Before we,
Recon and Mista somehow like figured out how to do the zoom trick with the earth walls. You know, that kind of screams 10K games.
Yeah. Before we quit, I have to give like a shout out to Balden and Ragnarok, my boy J4. What do we think about the state of Ragnarok? Just real quick.
It's very bad.
Wait, what's a Ragnarok?
It is,
Never
right?
seen
Yeah,
it
I know.
before.
You
It
guys
is
think
a
it should
buff.
be buffed? Is it fine
Yeah.
now? Is it?
It
I
needs to be
actually-
buffed.
I suggested, like, in my opinion, the perfect fix for Ragnarok. Wait, let me remember it. It's similar to how it works on AoE 2, if you know that tech that
Yeah,
makes all your.
Burgundians, right? The Flemish militia.
Yes, so if you don't want. If the heroes are going to be as weak as they are now, then Ragnarok should not be considered an all-in god power. So how can you not make it an all-in god power? I think you need to reduce the population of the heroes themselves. This will make you able to replenish villagers much faster. So it's not an all-in that sense.
What if you would get food or some other resource for everything you convert? Let's say you get half of, maybe this is extreme, but just as an example, what if you would get half of the food for villages that are converted to Ragnarok heroes and half of the dwarves? You would get like, I mean, maybe for the dwarves, you would get half of the gold back. Do you think that would maybe be something? Or is that just like a random, nonsensical stat boost?
I think that would just be more in favor, more in line with the all-in, right? More resources to all-in with.
No, because you can rebuild after easier.
I mean, yeah, fair enough, but you're not gonna be able to build anything with your limited population if it's just over the cap by so many heroes. I even suggested making them one population, so you can just instantly start rebuilding economy. That might be extreme, so you can make them
Yeah.
two population.
I mean, Baldur has like Ragnarok has to be a little weak because if it's really strong, then Norse cannot also be strong early, right? That's like the design problem that also Burgundians were facing. Yeah, tricky.
I don't think it
I
should.
think we should.
Hmm?
Oh,
Go
sorry,
ahead.
on,
Go ahead.
Roger.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna change the subject, but that's why you can go ahead.
Oh wow, this god power like one shots a wonder too. Blazing Prairie.
Wasn't
Oh,
your
yeah.
wonder 3k HP?
Blazing Prairie is actually the strongest god power, but it's in a relatively low area. And I feel like it's overlooked at the moment because everyone's focused on Great Flood. But Blazing Prairie is insane.
They're both like very, very strong.
And it kills
And
units.
wonders are also just kind of weak, honestly. They die very easily.
Blazing Prairie will do more damage than Earthquake, but it also kill like units. It's I mean, make it make sense.
All right, guys. Any final thoughts? I'm gonna end the stream.
Yes,
I
nerf
gotta,
Tia.
I gotta ask for that nerf Tia.
Nerf Thea.
Riot, I guess.
I
have
would
an
actually
overview,
ask
by
for
the way.
one. When
Anyone
there's one
think
thing
this-
No,
that
but
is more
for
damage
real,
than Tia right now.
on
There's
a,
one thing
on a
that's
real
more
note,
damage than Tia right now, which is Rhea, and I don't really know why someone would buff Rhea that way. Like I understand the thought process. Like okay, I need to give like tools to deal with Norse, but bro, come on, like the thing that is giving you problems is Berserker. It's nerf Berserker. You're giving problems to Greek as well. But instead, they went like, okay, I need to deal with Berserker, so let's give like Gaia and Kronos ways to deal with that. And instead, they didn't solve the matchup. They just make it the same. Like Thor will still win against this, but they made the other matchup that these guys were already good against worse. Like, and I don't understand this buff. It's gonna make like Gaia and Kronos really strong against Greek and even China.
I made some quick notes just to summarize our stance if anyone's interested. So I have food in base. We are divided. No clear answers. Maybe revisit in future. I have water maps. Fishing is too weak. Maybe going to heroic is too strong. Suggested change is disabling the free myth unit spawn and increasing base fishing gather rate, and then nerfing, of course, the upgrades to compensate. China, consensus is needs nerfs across the board, lots of complex changes regarding god powers. And I have Norse here, which is that Thor and Loki are inherently problematic, but a lot of strength is present in Forseti and Braki, mainly because of the Berserk. And Freyr is too different to really include in the Norse discussion. You would have to tackle that separately. And I have Chariot Archer not considered problematic. That's kind of what I have. Does everyone agree with that?
I think the food and base thing that 75% of us here or 80% of us here agree. I
Yeah.
think it needs to be said. Like, I think that should just really like happen like as soon as possible.
Yeah, maybe just build ramen. Seem
Yeah.
to
I'm the
It's
only
just
one.
Nora.
Yeah.
But even you're saying reduce the gather rates on the food in your base, and then you're okay with that, right?
Like, the reducing the gather rates is fine. What I am more for is to increase the hunt gather rate, so it's worth going outside your base. So those who stay in their base will lose tempo lead by having less food income than the people who go outside their base and take a risk to get that food.
But that's what I mean though. Like you agree with
But yeah,
just
but
it needs to be
I do agree,
changed,
but
right?
you cannot. I don't think removing berries or chicken is the answer. I think simply
Oh,
increasing
we're
the
not
hunt
saying
gather
that
rate.
though.
Oh,
We're just
okay.
saying like lowering the gather rate. Like don't remove berries or chicken. Like don't
I mean,
like reduce the amount.
I wouldn't mind matching the chicken gather rate same as berries. I think that would be a completely fine change.
Yeah, I
And
agree
I
with
think
that.
the hunting gear needs to be moved to classic because if people are going to be outside more, the villagers need to be a little bit tankier, in my opinion.
To be fair, the point I've always argued is we need to incentivize moving outside of your base somewhat early in classical, go to hunt. And the mechanism, like, it doesn't really matter to me. Less food in base, less gather rate on chickens or berries, like maybe more gather rate on hunt, although I think that is dangerous. Like basically any mechanism to accomplish that, I would kind of be on board by, and sure, I would consider some mechanisms better than others, but as long as that's accomplished, I think that's a step in the right direction.
Yep, I agree.
Okay, but how do you leave your base against like 5 pioneers and a Nisa in your hunt?
Yeah, but that's issues like they have to
You have
fix like
to, though.
afterwards. Like this is like changing like the core game, and then after that they can fix it.
Oh yeah, I see.
But right
And
now they're like band-aid fixing. That's the issue.
yeah, the game has to be completely balanced for it to be a thing.
It's not as drastic as you're making it out to be. Like 5 pioneers in a myth unit, they're not that insanely strong. Their stats can always be tweaked for the new meta, right? A bit less damage, a bit less movement, whatever it is. All civs are able to make a lot of units very quickly. All of them can.
Yeah, that's why I'm not too worried, honestly. Like we don't really know what's like what exactly is gonna happen. So I think it will be a lot of fun.
The only outlier might be Atlantean. I think they're a bit slower with getting the army out, but most civs can, because defender's advantage is also a big thing.
Yep.
Did you guys discuss like how to fix weak yet?
It's
I
hopeless.
wasn't
Just
here.
give up.
And
Hopeless.
and I need Hermes buff for yesterday.
They're nerfing Centaur next patch, so stay tuned.
Oh, they're nerfing setters.
They're gonna
we're
actually,
getting
they're gonna
one more
give Jason a 50x multiplier. Are you excited?
Chemo.
and lose
Chemo
one more
trying to
chicken
get
in
into
one
them.
page.
All right, guys, I'm going. I gotta go.
Alright.
Thank you everyone for
Thanks for having
tuning in.
us.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, man. Have a nice one.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's
Bye-bye.
do it. Let's do it again. Maybe in a week. Maybe after the patch comes out, we can do one again.
Yeah, for sure. Or maybe after the
Sure.
tournament, like whatever hits first.
Yeah. All right, guys. See ya.
See ya,
See you
man.
later.
Bye.
See you guys. Peace.
Bye.
Just gonna find somebody to raid, and then I'm gonna head off. If anyone wants to stream, Nara, if you want to stream, if anyone wants to. Oops. Doesn't look like there's any AOM. Oh, there's OG Jenny. Okay, I'll wait for you, Nora. Did we mention Chemo does not play Norse? I think we forgot to mention that. I'll mention it in the next one. I think also, I don't know, this is gonna sound weird, but I was looking at AOM streams this morning. Let me just share my screen 1 sec. Actually, you know what? Never mind. I'm not gonna say it. Where are you, Nora? Did you go live? No, I'm not gonna say it because then I'm gonna have to edit this video. I'm just gonna post this on YouTube uncut, so I don't want to say anything that I need to edit out. Alright guys, thank you for watching. I'm gonna pass you over to Nora. See you later.